Apparently, someone in Hollywood pulled their head out of their ass long enough to make an intelligent statement. In this article from the New York Post, Jaws star Richard Dreyfuss slams new Oscars diversity rules. Now, what rules are those? Let's see what the article has to say. Hollywood's new diversity rules are making one actor sick. Legendary actor Richard Dreyfuss condemned the inclusivity changes that will be implemented for next year's Oscars, saying the new standards make me vomit. These new diversity rules are going to try and kill any sort of meritocracy that was left in Hollywood. Quote, "This is an art form. It's also a form of commerce and it makes money, but it's an art," Dreyfuss said on PBS Firing Line with Margaret Hoover. "And no one should be telling me as an artist that I have to give in to the latest, most current idea of what morality is. These diversity rules have absolutely nothing to do with morality. It's a checkbox system to make yourself look good to the general public. The only thing that should matter when it comes to looking for an actor, an actress, a voice actor, a producer, well, maybe not producers, they just put the fucking money up front, the showrunners, the writers, everyone, is skill. Meritocracy needs to be a thing again. Bring back the actual, the legitimate best person for the job." The article continues. Dreyfuss, who's famously played Matt Hooper, he's done a lot more than just that. In 1975 horror film, thriller maybe, Jaws claimed the standards were legislating people's feelings. What are we risking? Are we really risking hurting people's feelings? No, you can't legislate that, and you have to let life be life. And I'm sorry, I don't think that there is a minority or a majority in the country that has to be catered to like that, Dreyfuss added. I'll agree with that. Look at him. He's smart. So, starting in 2024, a film has to meet, this is when I believe they're going to start getting into the rules in order to be considered for Best Picture. So, starting in 2024, a film has to meet certain diversity and inclusion standards. This is the bane of all entertainment and business and everything. Diversity and inclusion. There should not be rules that say you have to include X, Y, or Z. The only reason that should qualify you for an invitation to the party is what you bring to the table. And a superficial bullshit like gender and skin tone should not give you a fast pass to the front of the fucking line. Inclusion standards in 4 different categories set out by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences to be considered for Best Picture at the Oscars. The categories, each pertaining to different aspects of a movie's production that actually have nothing to do with the content of the picture, would require new diversity measures to be met through, quote, on-screen representation, creative leadership in project teams, industry access and opportunities, and audience advancement. Audience advancement? What the hell does that even mean? On-screen representation is classified as at least one lead character from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group having at least 30% of secondary roles be from 2 underrepresented blah, 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 blah. Buzzword, buzzword, buzzword. What if it's a period piece? What if it's a movie set in World War I? Maybe it's a movie set in feudal Japan. How many white people are you going to have in that movie? How many black people are you going to have in that movie? Z fucking row. Nobody's complaining about the lack of diversity in those movies. But you sure as hell... Anyway. According to the Academy, underrepresented groups include women, people of color, people who identify as LBGT2 alphabet, and people with disabilities and a new... Are you going to have people with disabilities on the front line in a war movie? How retarded. This is absolutely moronic at best. These rules, restrictions, diversity, inclusion in movies that should only look for the best person for the job. And the new standards are meant to encourage diversity on and off the screen. Just get the best person for the job. What if you don't have enough showrunners who are interested in the work that you're putting forth? Maybe they're not qualified. Maybe they don't have the knowledge. Should you just put them in there anyway? What ends up happening is your story will suffer, much like modern Hollywood today and CW products. Article continues. Dreyfuss, who won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1977 for his role in The Goodbye Girl, defended Laurence Olivier in Shakespeare's Othello, a Moorish military commander, which he played in... Ooh, he did that, huh? Olivier did it in 1965, and he did it in blackface, and he played a black man brilliantly. Well, at the time, people might... Uh-oh. Dreyfuss said, I never saw it. Quote, am I being told that I never have a chance to play a black man? Yes, you're saying, yes, you're not playing a black man. Is someone else being told that if they're not Jewish, they shouldn't play the Merchant of Venice? Yes, absolutely. That is what they are being told. If you are not Jewish, you cannot play the role of a Jewish person in a movie because diversity and inclusion, it's no longer allowed. Acting, the idea of acting is dying. Did we not know that art is art? This is patronizing. Yes, it is. Patronizing at best. It's so thoughtless and treating people like children. Dreyfuss suggested movies should remain focused on the reality of the story instead of manipulating it to meet the standard of who's in it. My goodness, this is the most intelligent thing I've heard coming out of Hollywood in a while. Most actors and actresses try to bend the knee to the Twitter mafia and the social media, thinking that it's going to get them any sort of brownie points or financial security from the people who actually spend the money. And before you come at me with any sort of, I spend money on this, I spend money on that, again, I'm talking about the majority, mostly the silent majority, who vote with their wallets. They don't get on social media and scream to the rafters because they know it is a waste of time. They simply look at the product, see what's being pandered to one group or another, and go, I'm not going to give it my money. Or they decide, I'm going to give it a shot and give it my money. Quote, I once worked for a guy who was making a film about gangsters of the 30s, Dreyfuss recalled. I said, why did you change this incident and that incident from reality? Because the reality was so much more interesting than what you created, and by changing it, you made it simple and smaller. I totally believe that you can make a great film or a great painting or a great opera out of the truth first, and try that first. And then, oh my goodness, and then if you can't do it, then make up some nonsense. But don't tell me that you can't do that history isn't that interesting. I'll agree with you there. History is very interesting. History is very tragic, and history is very painful. History is very mean, disgusting. Throughout the world, history has not been nice to one person or another. And if you try to hide that, you are failing to actually teach what's happening, what's going on, and what has happened. You are making it more and more difficult to learn from the follies of history, the mistakes that we've made as a species, not as a culture, not as a melanin content, not as a area of the planet, not as a particular continent. I'm speaking about the human race as a whole. Basically, humans are shit throughout history in one way or another. We've always been shit to each other. In order to stop being shit to each other, we have to improve. In order to improve, we must know what actually happened, whether it's dramatized or not. There's some nasty things that happen in the world. But back to this. The idea of forcing a writer, a studio, to check that box in order to be included for Oscar nomination is going to do one of two things. It's either going to produce garbage stories, which they're already doing nowadays, depending on who you talk to, or all the really good movies people aren't going to know about. They're going to fall by the wayside because so many, probably less and less every year, too many people pay attention to the Oscars and see that as some sort of barometer, some sort of metric on what's good and what's not, and they ignore the independent film, the foreign film, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I believe that won some sort of awards, and that was a great movie, but it did not do well at the box office. People are going to miss out on the good movies, and the trash movies are going to go to the forefront because they want to check these boxes. Stories are being pushed to the wayside to push forth some sort of message. Stories are losing out, and we need to fight back against it. Put your money where the good stories are, where the good entertainment is, the movies, the shows that aren't preaching to you about this, that, and the other. Shows, writers, producers, production companies that put the story first and a little message here and there is not a problem, as long as the story and interesting characters and well-written shows and characters is first and foremost. Find those, promote those, share them with everyone you know. But what do you think? Is it more important to check that box, or is meritocracy the key? Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like, leave a dislike, give me a sub if you so choose. I appreciate you making it this far. I will see you in the next one.